I might say something else.
You said some really cool stuff, and it should have been recorded. I just kind of thought we were casually chatting, and a lot of cool stuff was coming.
Well, anyway, right. But it's like when you do these lessons, when I look at these lessons and it's like there's no neutral thoughts, it's like it's easy to gloss over the thoughts about things like squirrels and cute little animals because they don't seem to be particularly villainous to you. They don't seem to be particularly upsetting. In fact, they may even be endearing, right? And they keep you still in that dreamscape of the temporal association. So you have to be aware that even my thoughts about squirrels, if I'm engaging with it, I'm obviously not being the passerby or the observer. And there's an opportunity there for me to pull on that thread and see where that thought train of things goes with the squirrel. Right, so it's like, all right, show me why I'm attracted to these thoughts. What is it? I mean, it's always going to be to maintain and perpetuate the idea of separation, right? Mm-hmm. But individually, we have these associations within us that kind of link and link and link and link like dominoes. And when one falls, they all fall. And sometimes you'll be looking at things like a squirrel and it'll go back to a whole memory package of things with squirrels, right? And it's not just the squirrel. Who was with you when you were seeing the squirrels? Mm-hmm. What happened on that other day with the squirrels and that dog chased you? All these things, like it can trigger. Everything's a trigger, because I've given it all the meaning it has, right? I'm not saying there is a trigger in everything like that. Sometimes they're just very superficial and you're like, no, there's nothing there. I don't react to it much, or, you know, I've forgiven these sorts of things and there's no association that I really have with it now, right? But you'll see where it is when you have a shift in consciousness, like my story about going to the beach for the palm trees. I used to love going down to the beach. It was like an escape. I would see the palm trees, the coconut palms swaying in the breeze and the ocean and the sand. And I'd sit there and I'd be like, feels so good to be here. You know, now I go down there having looked at that, which is seemingly not a threatening idea, right? And there's nothing. I look at palm trees, I don't feel any particular way about it at all, because I've healed that in my mind that anything other than God should make me feel a certain way. Because the palm trees, the beach and everything is just God. Everything's God. All right. So when I see a little squirrel in the park or whatever, and I have a story about a squirrel, I never know what that's going to trigger, what it's going to unravel. Right. And it's easy just to gloss over it and go, oh, that doesn't matter. I reacted to a squirrel, or a little squirrel spooked me or something. Right. But all my thoughts have power. And it's like the first step into hell, and it's a slippery slope going down, right? It doesn't take much to buy into the dream, even with a little squirrel. And then the next thing you know, you've been all day, haven't done your lesson, been judging stuff. You know, like that's how it goes. I know, firsthand, I know, right? Finger on my nose. So, when you read that lesson, it says there are no neutral thoughts, right? The thoughts that you think are innocuous, or is innocuous means not harmful, or is that the opposite? I can't remember.
I don't know.
I have to look it up. Anyway, I will look it up. The thoughts you think that you think are pretty harmless. There's no such thing as a harmless thought. Okay, they all represent denial. The place I'm trying to find in my mind is that no thought place, like in Buddhism, they have no mind or whatever. So in this, I'm trying to find that no thoughts moment, right? The holy instant where I'm sitting in my meditative practice, my meditative effort, and all of a sudden, no thoughts interfere with my silence, right? Not even a little thought about a cute, fluffy little squirrel. Right? And then boom, the light happens. Right now, you guys should be at a place now, Anna. Even though you've started the workbook again, you still should have some what would you call it? Shift energy, I guess, or some shift maturation in your mind, right? So it's like already, even though you're doing the lessons again because of a decision you've made to do that because of whatever, you've been in this for a while, and there's a point somewhere in your mind where all the accumulative little aha moments add up, and you're able to focus on those as an idea of accomplishment. Okay. That accomplishment, when you sit meditating, it sort of buoys you up, and it's like, no, I can do this, right? It's like, I've been doing this for a while. I've got these lessons. I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to do this lesson, and I'm going to find that stillness within and sit and listen and just be there in that place, right? Mm-hmm. That's where we're going with this. It doesn't take that you have to actually do the whole workbook perfectly to be able to enter into that silence. Okay. Yeah. You can do it without even the workbook. You can do it without even having heard of A Course in Miracles. Yeah. People do all the time. They just go to like a meditation class, or maybe they sit at the beach and just have a random moment of silence, and boom, everything changes. But those kind of instances are pretty rare. Usually it takes a lot of determination and effort and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at the idea, I have no neutral thoughts, try to be the observer of your thoughts, and in that, like, recognize where it is that even little thoughts about squirrels and things also have power. Okay.
Yeah.
There is no squirrel. There's only God. There is no whatever kangaroo. There's only God. Okay. And I remember having a, this is just a little example, I guess, of that idea. Many years ago, I drove through the outback in my car to Alice Springs, which is in the center of Australia near Ayers Rock. And if you're in a hurry, you can do that journey in about 3 to 4 days, right? It's 4,000 whatever kilometers. You have to go sort of up, down and around. But I was not in a hurry. I took a couple of weeks to get there and everything like that. On the way, you see emus, which are like ostriches. I don't know if you have emus over there, or ostriches, but they're massive. They're freaking, they tower over you. Like they're 9 feet tall. Like the body of them is the size of a huge, I don't even know what, they're just enormous. And they run really fast. Like they can outrun pretty much everything else. They're like ostriches. They just run at this incredible rate of speed. And when you see them in the outback, like in big flocks of them, like 30, 40, 50 together, they just run, and they're kind of majestic. They look beautiful. They're like, wow, look at all those emus, right? And I had a moment where I was doing my lessons, and emus was one of the things. This is like years ago when I was living in Byron Bay. And I looked at the idea of things that I thought were good, things that I thought were amazing about my dream. And my memories of traveling through the outback were pretty amazing, because a lot of weird shit happened out there. I met Aboriginal people who were like living like cavemen still, and also scorpions, like 1 million scorpions on the ground. I got out at this petrol station. They were just everywhere because there'd been a light shower of rain, first time for the whole year. And the scorpions come out and soak up whatever moisture they can get. But there was thousands of them. And then these emus. And I sat in Dryden Street in my little room. We had these student rooms, and I had a bed and a cupboard and whatever, and then a door and a window, and there was like 7 or 8 of those. And everybody went for dinner, and I remember sitting there. I don't remember if this was the same story. It's a bit vague now, but I remember I was sitting there at one point looking at things that I thought were good in the dream, because I realized that I'd only been dealing with things that I thought were upsetting, rather than dealing with things as well that were luring me into what I thought how cool a dream was, right? How cool the illusion is, which is only at the offset of how crap it is. I can't have one without the other, right? The yin yang. And I remember these emus running across the Nullarbor, and there was a willy going past, which is like a mini tornado. And like the whole scene, it's like something out of the Wild Wild West. And I sat with it for a second, and I saw these emus running in my mind. And then I had this horrific memory, right, of my childhood when my parents took me to a wildlife park in Beenleigh, which is a sort of country area. It's hard to explain if you don't know Australia, but anyway, it's a suburban, but it's like a big suburban zoo area, right? So we went to Bullen's Lion Safari, and there's an area where there's some animals that you can pat and feed and whatever, and then there's lions and tigers. You can't go in there. You have to go in your car with your windows up. And an emu, I had a bag of bread bits, like they toast it and they cut them up into thing and they sell it for like $1, and you can feed the goats and you can feed the whatever. This emu came up. I was about probably 8 or 9 years old, and it was pecking its head, taking all the bread out of my bag, and I could see that it wouldn't be long before the bag was empty because the emu was just like eating all of it. And I tried to pull it away. I tried to pull this bag of breadcrumbs away from this massive emu, right? This huge freaking emu, and its neck was bent down trying to get right into the bag, and there's breadcrumbs going everywhere. And I ran away with my breadcrumbs, right, which was the stupidest thing I could do. And this emu's chasing me like this, like running like a goddamn fucking thing right behind me, right behind me. And I've got my breadcrumbs, and I have this whole memory of me screaming, terrified. And this emu's pecking me on the back of the head with its beak, trying to get me to stop. And all I could hear was my mother yelling at me, "Just stand still, just stand still." And so I got to the end where the fence was, and I couldn't run any further. I had to stop. So I stopped and I just dropped the bag of thing, and the emu stood there pecking at it. Didn't worry about me. But it was like one thought about how majestic the emus look on the thing, and I'm sitting there and I'm just allowing everything to come up around that as a good thought, and it brought me right back to that horrifying, like it was true terror, like that. Those birds, right? So that's what I'm trying to say about the squirrels. Right? You don't remember, right? You don't remember your childhood clearly. By the time you get to like 30, 40 years old and you start to get older, you remember that you have memories about your childhood, but you don't remember them all, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you can go for decades without being triggered of a childhood memory, right? Or perhaps the rest of your life, which is why when it says I have no neutral thoughts, it's good to just spend a moment when you do those lessons and to just like allow what you think are seemingly harmless or neutral thoughts to come up, because everything's like a tapestry. Everything's like a rug. It's woven like a jumper, you know, knitting. I don't even know how you knit. And then you pull that thread, you look at that memory, and all of a sudden the synapses in your brain, right? So we're talking brain here rather than mind for a second, but the synapses in your brain work in such a way that they're designed to support your memories. They're designed to support references for your protection, right? It's a basic survival instinct. So if you see a snake, it'll give you your synapses will connect every other memories you've ever had of snakes, and you'll be able to decide whether that's a poisonous one or not, or whether you should run or be still or whatever. And things like that. So one thing connects to another, and it's like dominoes. So you find one thought about an emu, and then the next thing you know, bam, bam, bam. And like, it's not the story, it's what it invokes in you. Right? So the story of the emu in me brought up terror, right? Now, in my relationship with my father, the tiny moment of terror that came to replace the love of God in my awareness, right? I call it terror. As a little boy, I remember getting lost in the shopping center. That was terror. And if I'm honest, and if I could look back and see every single memory, there are memories that strike terror in me from my past, right? I've had a big boxer dog when I was at school, jumped up and it was barking in my face, and it jumped up on me and I thought it was going to bite me. I was only a little boy. Terrifying, right? Things like that. but it's not the story. It's not because the story is always the catalyst. It's what it invokes in me. It's what it brings up. So the moment of terror is relived again and again and again, and it shows up in all sorts of funny ways. But the ego will use your spiritual learning to try and defend you from finding these things, to try and stop you from looking deep into, it's like where Jesus says, search for the blocks and find them. You can't search for those blocks and find them just as the pure blocks. You have to find a reference point that makes sense of that block to you. All right. It's not like you can look into your mind and there's a big wooden thing that says, hey, I'm a block, but you have a story of what that block represents, right? So the belief that the body's valuable for something, or the desire to get rid of peace. So you have many stories in your life where you'll see, man, I could have had peace in that situation, but I told that person to, whatever, and I perpetuated the drama. Why did I do that? I must be crazy. I was just angry or whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. It reflects that block. Okay. The desire to get rid of peace. The story itself is just the scenario, just the wrapping, right? It represents that. It stands for that. That block is what it is that manifests those situations. It's like the fear of death. I've had a few doozies of the fear of death. When my friend was driving a car, and I won't tell the story, it just goes on, and we lost control of the car, and I could just see this is going to end really bad, and there's like the fear of death, but there are moments like that all through everything. That car, perhaps, maybe I see a car similar in the street today, and it triggers that memory reflection in me of that time when that fear of death, So it's like there's no neutral thoughts. Even though I'm not in the car today, if I sit with that thought, if I react to it, it's mine, right? If it triggers me, if I react to it, good or bad, I got to own it. It's like, wow. And the hardest ones to own are the ones that seem to be nothing. They seem to be just like, it doesn't have any meaning. It doesn't mean anything to me. But it's like you wouldn't react to it unless it means something to you, right? Because nobody reacts to things that doesn't mean anything, right? You can only react to the meaning you've given it because you're only looking at it in your own mind, even though it seems to be outside of yourself. So you see a squirrel in the park, you're not reacting to the squirrel, you're reacting to a story in your head about a squirrel, a thought in your mind about a squirrel. It's not the squirrel itself you're reacting to. You're perpetuating a scenario that maintains your belief in the illusion of separation from God. Right? It seems to be fairly meaningless. Oh, it's just a little squirrel. It's just a little squirrel. But that little squirrel connects to everything. Right? That grain of sand on the beach connects to everything because everything's one thing. Right? That little squirrel lives in a tree. That tree grows outside your window. That window, your friend put it in for you, and that window's been broken by kids playing cricket in the street or something, accidents, and you had to call someone. And the story goes on. It's like the butterfly effect, right? It goes on and on and on and on. So when you're walking around during the day and something goes, whoop, jumps out like a little squirrel and you react to it and you let it go, right? It's like, you can let it go with the concept, oh, it's just a squirrel, I don't have to give it any meaning. But if you want to use it, like if you look at it and you can say, let me sit with this idea for a second of this squirrel. Why did I react to it? It seems to be just a thing, but it's just a catalyst for the reaction that perpetuates my belief in the cause and effect relationship of me versus the squirrel, right? It keeps me in the drama, keeps me in the dream. Next time I go to the park, I'm going to be looking out for the squirrels, right? It's always rebuilding. The ego's always trying to reestablish itself in your mind, and it'll use those tiniest, littlest of thoughts that seem to be like almost meaningless to do that, right? Which is why the vision of Christ, the singular vision of life, sees beyond even the squirrel, beyond the tree, beyond the story about anything. But you've got to be proactive. You've got to be, it's like I tell you guys, you've got to activate yourselves. When you walk out that door in the morning, you've got to be like, here, boom. All right, Father, I'm here to represent the love of God. And then anything, and which is perfect peace. And then anything that drags you out of that, good or bad, is the subject matter, because you're in a dream, you're dreaming. Right? This is not reality.
Yeah.
Right? You look around your room, this is not real. Right? In reality, there's no windows, there's no doors, there's no squirrels, there's no nothing. There's only God. There's only my perfect whole eternal home in eternity, right? Sinless and free forever as spirit. It's like somewhere I'm Neo in that red jelly, and I'm absolutely convinced what's going on here until somebody takes me out of the red jelly and shows me the alternative, right? We don't have the luxury of the red pill or the blue pill. We have 365 lessons and your willingness to be vigilant for that everywhere you go, right? Now, it's pretty difficult, right? So I think it was Ramana Maharshi that even said, you can't live a whole day in perfect oneness, in that state of perfect awareness all day. You'd be lucky to get through the day with like 2 minutes. If you could carry that sense of singular self with you throughout the day. Oh, I'm everything I see. Everything's just me. Everything's my thoughts about it, whatever. And it's like, and there's no need really to do that, right? Because it's a form of false defensiveness to try and do that, right? It's better if you let the squirrel spook you. It's better if you see the things and have the reactions, because at least that's more honest. It's like, oh, I'm still reacting to squirrels, or I'm still reacting to yellow cars or emus, you know, and things like that. I still have a reaction there, right? You'll get to the point when you've transformed your thinking about these things where you'll go down the beach and the palm trees won't mean a thing. They'll be there, they'll be green, they'll be whatever, they're swaying in the breeze, and you'll be like, I don't feel anything. I don't feel satisfied and a sense of solace now, right? It's like, because that sense of solace was in me all along, I've stopped associating with it with things outside of myself, right? I no longer have to drive all the way to the beach so I can sit under the palm trees and feel like, I've got that with me everywhere I go, right? But I never used to. It's the same thing with the squirrels. Whatever the squirrels represent is keeping you out of that moment of, everywhere you go, right? Because there's a moment where the squirrels are something and everything else is not that something. So let me bring the squirrels together with everything else. My relationship with the squirrels is keeping me in an illusion of myself. Let me collapse that. Let me look at that idea, what that represents, see how deep that goes, even the good stuff. And Jesus says, I will help you even more if you would even share your happy thoughts with me, right? And it's like nothing is lost. So when if you can see your thoughts as just energy, all your thoughts have power, right? Think of that power as a kind of a energy. So my thought about the squirrel, on the scale of 1 to 10 energy, it's maybe a 2 or a 1 or something. It's nothing big. But if I give that to Jesus, that 1 or 2 energy is going to be turned over to peace for me, and the emotional state that 1 or 2 energy represented gets added to my record, right? Gets added to my progress in the journey of my soul, right? It's been restored to me. It's not like I just have it as an experience in the world while I'm in the world. It actually has beneficial gain to me beyond the world. Can you hear that? So it's like, oh God, I'm trying to think what he says. It's like, there's a biblical teaching for this. It's really cool. Oh my God, I'm going to have to go and find it now. I've got my got my little New Testament
Bible.
here, but yeah, the Bible. Yeah, that's my Bible there. But what is it? It's like what you free on earth is freed up in heaven, right? What you bind on earth is bound in heaven. All of that sort of thing. So whilst I free it up on earth, whilst I free my mind from the reaction and whatever to it and being the victim of it over and over and over, it seems to benefit me here on earth because I'm no longer afraid of it, or I no longer react to it, and I'm just able to carry on with my day without being distracted all day. But it also, I release that in heaven, and it allows the journey of my soul to become more fulfilled, right? Now, one of the things that Jesus said to Helen when she was writing the book, when she was doing the dictation and everything like that, I forget the specifics of the situation, but they were talking about her in a very personal way. And she must have asked a question, I think, of like, how am I going in my own progress? You know, I'm doing all this dictation for the world and for other people, and this will become something, whatever. But what about me personally? How am I tallying up or whatever? And Jesus said, you've been weighed in the balance and found wanting, right? You've been weighed in the balance and found wanting, which means you've still got more work to do, right? That's not a bad thing or a scary thing seeing that, but it's like, if you can imagine going to the bardo, like the when you lay your body down and there's this whole transition in this idea of reincarnation, you get to this certain point, right? And there's like all these, you guys have a welfare office over there?
Yeah.
Where people go and they look at your file. That's how I see it in my mind. It's like there's this, have you ever seen that movie Heaven Can Wait with
Meryl Streep?
It's not, is it Meryl Streep? Yeah.
Meryl Streep and Albert something.
Whatever his name. And they get assessed. They all die in the bus crash, and then they go up to not to heaven, but they go to what's halfway, purgatory or whatever it is, where
whatever that is. Yeah. They get assessed. Got lawyers.
And they get this guy with the clipboard, and he comes along and he goes, Meryl Streep, and he goes, oh, you've done very well. You've practiced a lot of forgiveness, and you know, well done. You can go forward in the journey of the soul. And the other guy's been a right prick, you know, and he has to go back and try again. So,
and he's like, I've been doing my best. Yeah, I know, but because all these excuses.
I know, it's funny. So so in the idea of you've been weighed in the balance, that's exactly what that is, right?
Ooh.
So when you're looking at your own process on earth, it's like, I don't know where I'm at in the balance of anything. It's like, I really don't know, but I'm confident and happy and secure in the idea that I've had so many shifts in consciousness, or I seem to have, that I must have made some progress, surely, right? I've been applying, this is me, right? So I've been applying these lessons. I've been forgiving, whatever. I must have made some progress, because on earth, I feel fairly liberated. I feel quite happy about things, and there's not much that shows up in the day now that disturbs my peace of mind or draws me out of my sense of self too much or anything like that. I'm able to come back to it again and again and again. And even though Ramana Maharshi said you can only carry it with you for 2 minutes or something like that, I feel like I carry it with me for a fair chunk of the day now, like that sense of self. But I'm also aware that there are periods during the day, like at lunchtime or whatever, or if I get caught talking to someone at work, you know, like an hour or two can go by, and then all of a sudden something will go boop, and then I'll put my finger back on my nose and I'm back. Here I am, Father, you know. But so I'm hoping weighed in the balances, perhaps I've made some improvement.
Wow. I can imagine her asking that question after doing all that work, and then, you know, or seemingly doing all of that, and to hear that.
Well, it's funny. I had the thought today, what if I haven't made any difference to my balance? You know, like, what if I've been doing all this for 25 years and nothing's changed? I've just been going, like, 25 years on earth is just a fucking pinch, you know, like hardly anything. Like Jesus says, what's 10,000 years, for they have come. It's like, really, does 25 years count? Do they even see that in the balance? Like, is it anything? And it's just like, but then what's the alternative?
Exactly.
Go
it's
back
that
to
walk
being
in Chicago. It's that cold walk. Like,
right.
all I can do is take a step.
So, but it gets easier. You just got to keep going, Arnie. You just got to keep going. Do those lessons. Keep going. Keep going. And even though you, like, I don't know why you've gone back to do the lessons again, but in your own mind, it's perfect. But in your own mind, don't go back and do them again out of discouragement. Go back and do them again because you've been guided to, if you're guided to.
Yeah.
All right. If you get to a certain point, you're feeling discouraged with your results or whatever, that doesn't mean it's a good reason to go back and do them again. It just means it's a good reason to ask for help.
Okay.
Okay. If you're feeling discouraged with the lessons, ask for help. There's no point keeping going back, starting at lesson one. There's no not point to doing that. But the whole purpose of the course is to help you collapse time, is to speed things up and get things moving for you. All right. And I know guys that have done those workbook lessons year after year for 20 goddamn years. Why? Why? Right? If you can't hear it after, like, it took me 2 years. The first year I got to like lesson 260 something. And I realized that I had a great lack of integrity. Something in the lesson just made me aware of how half-hearted I'd been for the whole year. And I knew in my heart, I've got to do this again. Right? But that was it. The next year, I was writing the heading for the lesson on my arm. I was doing whatever it took to remember to do my lesson. Right? Setting an alarm clock. I would go into the session room in the morning and I'd write the day's lesson for, you know, the 20th day of the year. I'd write lesson 20 on the little blackboard in the foyer, and I'd draw a little picture of whatever that was. And everyone that came for a session that day would see it and go, thanks for reminding me we're on lesson 20. You know, so I did whatever it took, right? You're the same. You got to do whatever it takes, right?
Yeah.
Now, in amongst all of that, you've got your everyday life where you've got to pay bills and kids and whatever. Try not to see whatever it takes as being separate from that. Okay. Include it all in. So with your kid going to a new school and new school books and everything like that, include that in as part of your transformation, right? Include that in as the subject matter for doing your lessons.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, it's what you've got. It's tangible. You can relate to it. And it's, you know, it's like, I know so many guys that don't really include their mundane lives in, because they're wanting the course life to be something higher and more better above all that, you know, above the battleground. It's like, oh no, let me deal with my thoughts about grievances and these harsh judgments that I've had, whatever, and overlook those simple little ones about family that don't seem to have any power. But really, they're some of the most powerful ones there is. You know, my daughter spilled her cereal bowl again. Oh, God bless her. Right? It's like, no, let me look at my daughter spilled their cereal bowl again. Fuck. Cereal's expensive. The mess it makes, like the whole story, the story. Be honest with your reactions, right? It's easy to use a spiritual concept to try and fob it off and, you know, oh, it's not that bad. But anything can be pulling at that tapestry. Anything can be the trigger that shows you where you're really at with that, like the emu, right? Beautiful, beautiful emus running across the Australian outback. And the next thing you know, I'm thinking of remembering the one, like a vivid memory of this emu pecking at the back of my head, trying to get my bread. You know, so it's like my daughter going to a new school. I've got to get that organized. Maybe there's a memory of you going to a new school. You know, maybe that's a bad memory in you, getting picked on at school, whatever. Remember, one thing connects to everything, If you're buying into it, if you're giving it a meaning because all your thoughts have power, right? Just sit with it for a second.
Yeah.
Don't fob it off with a concept. Don't try to spiritualize it and pretend it's all, oh, it doesn't matter. I'll let that go. I won't get upset about that. You're already upset about it, or you wouldn't have to tell yourself not to get upset about it. I'm not saying that you were upset about anything, but just, you know, you get what I'm trying to say. So everything's an opportunity. Everything's an opportunity. There's not a moment that God's voice doesn't call upon my forgiveness to save me. In this situation, that situation, the little squirrel, the emu, my daughter going to a new school, all of these things that seem to be fairly domestic, simple, ordinary things in our lives have the most profound potential and possibilities contained within them if we're willing to sit and look at it for a second. Seek for the blocks and find them. They don't have to be great big trumpet, blaring trumpet noises. This is a horrible situation. You know, you don't need all these alarm bells ringing in your head to suddenly force yourself to look at stuff. You know, if you're aware, if you're consciously aware of your own sense of self and thinking about any particular situation, you'll be like, oh, I reacted to that, right? Why would I react at all to anything in my dream if I truly knew I was dreaming? Even a little squirrel. The squirrel's connected to the tree, to the park, to the rest of the whole world that supports that ecosystem. You know, there's a world that I'm here to forgive contained in every moment, in every connected moment, in every story, in every thought that has power that I've given it, because it all represents the idea of separation. It's all the one thing showing up again and again and again in limitless, seemingly limitless forms. Right? My story of separation shows up again and again and again in seemingly limitless forms, from little squirrels to people with guns and bombs in whatever, to anything, right? It doesn't have to be the thing that absolutely blows you out of the water. It can be the little thing that you almost miss out of the corner of your eye. Get it? That's a pretty cool teaching. So use it. Use what you've got. You'll find that when you're honest, when you sit there and you look at things, because a lesson repeats until it's learned, if you're reacting to something, you're repeating a lesson. If you're reacting to something, right? Why would you react at all to figures in a dream if you truly knew you were dreaming? If you're reacting to anything, it's because you don't truly know you're dreaming. There's an opportunity there for you to wake up. It's only in awakening that you're aware that you're asleep. When you're asleep, you don't know you're asleep. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, you're asleep. And you're going, Jesus is telling me I'm already awake. What do you mean I'm asleep? I'm saying, you're asleep because you're interacting with a figure in your dream as if it was real. That's what being asleep is, right? There's nothing going on here other than awakening from a dream. That's all. When you react to the figures in your dream as if they were real, you're asleep. There's mind asleep, mind awake, right? When you are the dreamer of your dream, and those figures in your dream no longer cause you to react to them, you're awake. You see that? Pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it gives you more work to do. It gives you a greater insight into the nature and the depth of the work that is before you, or the journey ahead, if you like. Right? You're never going to look at a little squirrel in the same way and go, wow, what is this squirrel connected to? I see I've reacted. Let me just sit still for a second with that reaction. It's not about the squirrel. It's the reaction. I'm reacting to something in my dream as if it was real. I've got a story about it. I've got a whole history with squirrels. I've got a whole thing going on there. Down the rabbit hole you go. It's like, holy cow!
I was no reaction though, Dave. Like you just told some stories, and every story that you told, like my mind went, oh yeah, I remember when that happened with me. And, oh
right,
yeah,
exactly.
But it wasn't any reaction, I don't think. But I mean, it still perpetuates the fact that I feel like there's a past that was real. I don't know. I mean, there was not, I didn't feel any like.
So, Tina, do you remember when that airplane crashed into your house? Yes or no?
No.
Right, because it never happened.
Yeah.
Right. So you're not, you wouldn't react to it if I said to you, hey, Tina, tell me that story about the airplane that crashed into your house. You'd be like, I don't have a story of an airplane crashing.
But I want to tell you what I do have. I had a story in my mind when you said that. I remember a movie where that happened. And, you know, that immediately happened. Like, I remember a really cool movie, Dave.
Oh, man.
You know?
Well, it's going to, all right, I'll try another one. Do you remember the time you were following that circus elephant and it did a shit and you ate the shit when you were very little? Right?
No.
It never happened, right? So right. if you're in a crowd of people and they're telling the story of how cute little Tina, she was 2 years old and she ate elephant shit, you'll be like, that never happened. Right? You don't have an association with it in your mind other than just to know for a fact that it never actually happened.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
I'm telling you the dream in its entirety never actually happened, but you have an association with it that's trying to convince you that it's still happening now. Right? Now, in your story, you're going to have specific associations, specific things. I mean, I wouldn't have ever guessed you to come up with a story about an airplane crashing. Like,
that's what I mean.
Anyway,
I mean, it doesn't matter if there's no trigger, though, right? I mean, because
right,
my mind goes to things.
But you'll notice it because you react to it, right? Rather than being the observer and the passerby, you're interacting with it, and you're going, "Oh, I remember a story about an airplane that, you know, it didn't happen to me, but." You've automatically got a story going on, right? That story is part of your validation process.
That's what I mean.
Validating the dream, right? Exactly.
Okay.
Right, but when it's healed in you, you won't even have that story, right? When it's healed in you, you'll be like, I don't relate to that at all, right?
Yeah.
Let the figures in their dreams say whatever they want. Let them be as crazy as they want. You won't even react to them because you won't have an association with it.
That's what I meant. I mean, the fact that my mind goes to those things is still trying to justify this dream. Okay, I just was, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so it's still, that's to be looked at.
Well, you know, like what we're talking about. Let's look at everything. Let's question everything. Right, it's like Buddha. Raise everything to doubt. Raise everything to question. Even the stuff you think is harmless. Right? It's like all of a sudden my country says, we're going to war. Here's a gun. Here's a uniform. Here's everything else. We're going to teach you how to march. Marching might seem fairly harmless on the surface, but it represents actually having to go and shoot people and maybe get shot yourself. Right? So it's like, whilst you might seem to be fairly safe on the parade ground, marching up and down, practicing your marching, there's a point in that where if you follow that thread, you can see that your best interests are not really going to be served by doing that. It's going to put you into direct conflict with the ideas of preservation and all sorts of stuff. And then you can look at the fear around that and everything else, right? That it will lead you to a deeper point, to a more useful point. The little squirrel in the park, it'll lead you to a more useful point. What if it runs up my leg and bites me on the fanny? You know, it's like all of those sorts of things. There's a moment of perhaps terror. And if you're a little child and a squirrel ran up the leg and bit you on the bum, you'd be like, holy cow, that was terrifying. I remember when that squirrel, but when you're an adult, it's like, oh, it's just a little squirrel, whatever. If it bit me on the bum, it won't hurt that bad. You know? But when you're a kid, it's like, it takes on mammoth proportions. See what I'm saying? So all my thoughts have power. All my thoughts have power. They will either make a false world or lead me to the real one. They can't make a false world on their own, but they represent the entire world in their manifestation. Right? The squirrel represents the whole world. The emu represents the whole world. Emus are sons of bitches, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I have emu. Is it emu?
Yeah, emu.
I have emu oil.
Oh, I have emu oil too. It's like a hot thing. You rub it on. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just
I don't think I don't think it's actually emu oil.
It's not
call
made
it
of
that.
emu.
Mine is.
No, I don't think so.
No, mine
You
is.
made it?
No, I bought it. So anyway,
You
there's
thought
an
it was made
association.
out of boiled emus or something?
It is. It's made out of them.
No, it's not.
Okay.
I've got a big tin of it. It's orange, and if you get a bruise or an ache, you can rub it in, and it's like deep heat. You know, it's one of those things, and you can sort of that feels better.
Okay.
Emu oil.
They said it's made from the emu. Anyway, I'm just looking at my association with it, like this guilt that comes up. So I'm just looking at that.
There you go. See, you got an emu story as well.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like there's always something,
Right.
and it's just I think so.
Right. There's always something. So it's like stay on it. Stay on it. Don't just wait for the big things to slap you in the face so you have a grievance and whatever. It's like if you remember to do your lesson throughout the day, everything is useful. Everything is helpful. There's not a moment that God's voice doesn't cease to call on my forgiveness to save me. Even the little things. Anyway, I think that's it. Are you happy, Anna?
Yeah. I'm good.
Good. You're good. You feel okay with doing that lesson and all your other lessons?
Yeah, I just find myself sometimes where I'll take multiple days to do them sometimes, and I'm like, why do I do this?
That's okay.
Yeah.
Just remember to ask for help. Right. That asking for help should always come from the place where you're grateful for the help, as if you've already received it, because somewhere you have, everything is in you already. All right. So when you're asking for help, it's not like you're asking for something you don't have. You're asking for something that God's already provided. God knows what you want before you ask. But in your asking, you're opening the floodgate to allow that help to come through to your awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So ask for help with your lessons. Man, I used to sit and ask for help to understand the lessons all the time. So what does this mean? Usually I would find that if I just kept reading a bit, it would make sense a bit, a few lines later, it'd be like, oh, Jesus is really good at double referencing everything to try and make sure you got it. He knows we're pretty dumb. So those guys are never going to get this. I'm going to have to tell them 10 times in this lesson, Anyway, Tina, you're good?
Mm-hmm.
So here, I want you to have do you have a bathtub?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh.
Have a hot bath, right? This is for Tina.
Oh.
Have a hot bath, as hot as you can stand it, like uncomfortably hot, right? Make it be like, oh, holy fuck, I can't get in there because it's going to burn my skin, right? Get in there, right? And soak for as you can in that super hot water, right? And then do some breathing, right? With the idea of a physical adjustment. I know this is in the, it's the idea of a physical adjustment, okay? And I bet you that'll shift. Actually, I can see it shifting. It's kind of like, because I can feel it there. It's like doing this grinding around and around. It's sort of like this energy it's not huge, but it's waiting to move.
I feel it.
Right, I know you can feel it. It's like it's in your back. It's sort of like, I've got it just there.
So I bathe, I take a bath twice a day. So but I'll take it with the intention of a healing. Not just taking a bath. Because I take one.
Yeah, well, let this be an uncomfortable bath.
Okay. All right.
Let it be uncomfortably hot.
Yeah, I don't like to stand. I like to sit.
No, you have to lay down in it. You just have your neck, like this. Like,
Oh, awesome. Even better.
Yeah.
Cool. But
Yeah.
yeah, with the intention. And uncomfortably hot. Okay.
Uncomfortably hot.
In about 5 hours, I'll do that.
All right. Whatever it is, it'll be there. I'll be able to tell. I'll feel you in that hot water. I'll suddenly get incredibly hot and uncomfortable in my own mind. I can feel it already.
Glad to be of service.
Oh, I can. Yep, I'm totally. All right, breathe for a second. Close your eyes, the both of you. Breathe. Take a few deep breaths. When you breathe in, I want you to try and feel as if you're putting out feelers for subtle energies, right? Imagine you're trying to tune into a radio station and you can barely hear the sound of when you turn the dial, right? Really try and reach out to feel for it, right? Feel it like a subtle sense, like it's like a sense of energy. I sense something, like you're feeling a ghost in the room, or like you feel there's someone hiding behind the curtains. You know, when you get that sixth sense and you feel like there's someone in my room or there's whatever, and you just kind of know it like instinct, right? Don't try to be instinctual about it, but just try to feel in that kind of a way, right? Try to reach out with your feelings, right? Which sounds to me a lot like Star Wars, but reach out. A Jedi must reach out and feel the force, right? You're not a body. You're connected to everything. When you breathe in and breathe out slowly, try to reach out and feel the connection you have with the universe, even in the subtle vibrations, right? The more subtle, the better. They're gentle. They're hardly there. It's like they're the smallest ripples in the pond. Feel that. Try to feel it. And as you breathe in, allow that feeling to permeate through your body even, and you'll get this sort of like a tingling in the breath. You'll feel the tingling in your body. Can you feel that? It's like activate it. Activate yourself. It's like, here I am, Lord. And every cell in your body will sort of start to tingle and come alive. You're consciously trying to connect with that frequency that activates you, that frequency where everything starts to vibrate and shimmer and all of that, right? You just have to practice it for a while. So I can breathe in. And if you think about God, like try to let your mind be expansive with the idea of God and reaching out into the universe, right? You'll feel that tingling more and more. You'll feel that vibration more and more in your body. And you'll sort of have this sense of the subtle frequencies all around you, right? It's not that they're really all around you because it's going on only in your mind, but we can relate to it in the physical because the physical is a reflection of the internal, right? As you do that breathing in and out, try to get that sense of things. This is something I want to work on in our next few Zoom meetings and when we get the other guys in on it and everything, is to breathe and to feel into the breathing so that we begin to get a sense of connecting with our breath and allowing that to vibrate or to I don't even know, so much of this you can't have words for, but to it's almost like the breath becomes a lubricant for your healing. It's like it's part of it. It's connected with it. It's like you have to breathe anyway. So let's include our breathing in that we take for granted as a part of a catalyst for our healing. It's like, I want to feel, I want to connect, I want to reach out and touch my universe as an idea. And there, that happens. And then you get a flash of light, right? So when I open my mind, it's the only way I can describe it. I can, like that. I always get this tingling, this like, because what's going on inside is outside and vice versa. But it's like there's a frequency to everything. The universe is just a frequency, right? It's a frequency of light. As you begin to awaken, your frequency becomes more expansive and more inclusive, including everything in rather than rejecting everything. And you start to able to become aware of it through all sorts of different means, all sorts of different avenues. Breathing is one of those things, right? People who are clairvoyants get a sense of their connectedness with the universe by being able to tell what it is that's going on for other people, right? It's like Helen and Bill had an experience one day where Helen thought that one of her friends was trying to commit suicide, and they telephoned him and he was trying to commit suicide, right? Helen had this connection. She just got a sense of it. She got a sense deep within that she should call him. Now, you can call that the Holy Spirit. You can call that inner guidance, whatever you want, but it's you. It's you. You are the Holy Spirit. You are the Spirit of wholeness, and you're learning to regain your power. You're learning to take control of your dream now. Okay. Some of the gifts of the Holy Spirit are being able to see into the future. Some of the gifts are clairvoyancy. Some of the gifts are being a healer, right? If you read the New Testament, Jesus tells you very clearly that the gifts of the Holy Spirit are many. Some of them go unrecognized. Some of them just like, how did that happen? Whatever. But some of them you can actually work with and become tangibly aware of. You guys are learning to become healers, right? And it's time that you started to learn how to become tangibly aware of the gifts you already have. But first you have to feel a sense of self that operates at a higher frequency, right? Then you can ask within, what can I do with this, right? In my mind, if I have a bruise or a sore or a whatever, I can send that tingling to a specific part of my body and it heals it instantly. There's a whole cellular reconstruction thing that goes on, right? I tried doing it with my wrist and it doesn't work. But in general, right? In general, it's like I got the results of my thinking with my wrist. So I've kind of resigned myself to the fact that I did this to myself. I'm an idiot. I'm just going to have to let it heal the old-fashioned way. But maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know. But in general, if I get a headache, I can just, I can let stuff happen. I can just allow that cellular thing, because everything is cellular. Everything operates at this speed of thought, at this subatomic, like cellular level, right? The healing of the mind has an effect on the body. You can connect with that healing in that sense and allow that healing through the body to happen much more quickly and beneficially than if you just had to sort of stand by and wait for it, right? Now I'm saying that I'm hearing myself talk about my wrist. I'm going to sit with that and do, it's actually pretty good today, but I'm going to sit with that and do it anyway. So close your eyes, breathe in through the nose, out through the top of your head. Think up, let everything be up. Imagine your breath going up, out through the top of your head. Start to get a sense of feeling the top of your head. Breathe in, breathe out through the top of your skull. Can you feel a little tingling in the top of your skull when you focus there? Anna, can you feel that? It's like a little jet of air going out. Right. Focus on that. These are all like little beginning things. One of the things that I really love, I think it's lesson 16, where Jesus says, maybe it's 14, you'll begin to notice little edges of light around the same familiar objects that you just take for granted, right? You begin to notice those things because you're consciously looking for them when he says that, right? You're beginning to notice those things because something in your mind is changing. And it's like, even though your ego is going to be trying to get you to not notice that, the fact that Jesus points it out, you go, oh yeah, I see that. I never noticed that before, right? It's the same with healing. It's the same with anything. Everything in this modality is healing. Everything. Seeing those little edges of light represents an idea of healing in your own mind. It's the healing of my mind that is now beginning to reassociate with the truth of things rather than the illusion of things, right? Because the truth is in everything I see. It's just not the image. It's just slightly beyond the image, right? Same thing in your own mind. My breath is not just my breath, right? It's an idea. It's an idea. It's thought that has power. Sure, if I don't have my breath, my body's going to expire. But also, because I have to breathe it anyway, I obviously take it for granted. I can take it, but now I'm going to include my breath in under the auspices of healing, because everything is healing. The universe is in a cycle of healing. My breath, my itch on my shoulder, my twisted ankle, include everything in, absolutely everything. Right? So breath is one that we have to do anyway, and it's helpful. Like when you sit and you meditate, it's like you can focus on your breath. In, out, in, out. If you're focusing on your breath, you're not going to be giving much attention to the thoughts that try to come in and out and disturb you, right? So you focus on your breath. Let all your thoughts be on your breath. And with that idea of here I am, God, here I am, Lord. Right? Breathe in, try to feel. I'm always telling you guys, try to feel, reach out with your feelings. Connect to things, even if you think, am I really feeling that or am I just making it up? It doesn't matter, right? Just try to get a sense of it. When something happens, something will happen. The very fact that you're trying, that you're putting the effort in, shows that you have the willingness to at least enter into being shown, to at least enter into a space where something else can happen because you're being willing to say, yes, I'm here to do that. Right? If it doesn't happen in the way I say, that doesn't matter, because I mean, your own journey and your own orchestration is individual to you. But I only have my own references to offer you, and if they help, they help. If they don't, they don't. It doesn't really matter. Right? But everyone has breath. Everyone breathes. So we can learn to work with that as a common denominator, as a common factor. Oh. And breathe into the light. Breathe the light in, breathe the light out. Everything's just light. Everything's energy. Everything's God. I'm breathing God in. I'm breathing God out. My mind is God. My thoughts are God. Everything is God. Feel it. Feel me breathing God in. It's like, here I am, Lord. My whole body's tingling and vibrating. What do I do with that? You don't have to do anything with it. It's doing what it needs to do all by itself. It's only the ego asking what to do with that. But you can work with it. You can actually amplify it. You can speed up your own process. You can do all these sorts of things. Right? We call that healing. But it's only ever so that you bear witness to the idea of God being a fact in you. It's not for the nature of healing itself. Right? The miracle itself is unimportant. It's where the miracle comes from that's important. It's what the miracle represents that's important. God. If I have a miracle, that must mean God's true. God's a fact. I'm healed of cancer miraculously. How did that happen? It wasn't from science. It wasn't from medicine. It must be from God. The miracle doesn't matter. God matters. Love matters. Truth matters. That's all that matters. Nothing else matters. That's where I want to be in my mind 24/7. Only love matters. That's it. Cool. Thanks for joining. Where two or more are gathered, there I am in the midst of them. Keep going. One foot in front of the other, Anna. One lesson at a time. Just keep going. Just keep going. That's all you got to do. If you get stuck on lessons, whatever, ask for help. You don't have to go back and start it. If you do, you do. But if you don't have to. You can just keep going. Remember, you're learning to become dependent on God, not dependent on Anna.
Yeah.
Okay? You're learning to become dependent on God, even if that means like, I need to be dependent on God even to do my lessons. Yes, of course you do. Who doesn't? If you think you don't, you're crazy. How can you do a lesson that says there is no world and hope to understand it without experience? Yeah, we're funny. It's funny stuff. All right. Peace. I'm watching I'm watching this cool thing. I'm going to tell you guys what it is because I think you'd enjoy it. Oh, it's gone off. Hang on, it's on Netflix. Sword of Destiny. It's a Chinese made sort of movie. They're all Chinese actors, but it's in English. It's in English and that, so you'll understand. There's no subtitles. It's a beautiful story. It's a romance. It's all about this, but it's a romance, you know, so. And romance in itself also has a deep-rooted thread throughout the dream. Right? It's another whole thing. Belief the body is valuable. Block number 2. Right? I see everything reflected off the course. It's stupid.
Sword of Destiny? Where is it?
I can't enjoy a movie anymore just for being a movie. It's always a teaching. Everything's
Me either.
You know?
Me either. I'm the same way.
Right. All right. I'm out of here. I'm going to have some ice cream.
Oh, me too.
Off to work.
Ooh,
Bye.
off to bed after some ice cream. All right,
See ya.
beautiful. Bye.